Good afternoon, Keluarga Malaysia. I'm Mohanupriya, and this is Updates at Noon. In our top stories today, 50 locations selected for Keluarga Malaysia Education Tour. Bursa records a total inflows of 1.31 billion ringgit last week. The Keluarga Malaysia Education Tour to provide a second chance to students who wish to pursue their further studies is set to be held at 50 locations nationwide. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the tour provided an opportunity to students who failed to enter university following the UPU online assessment, which did not take into account family status, place of residence and other considerations during the decision-making process. Met after launching the tour in Segamat yesterday, the Prime Minister said since 2016, the program has facilitated 160,374 students to gain entry to public institutions of higher learning, private institutions of higher learning and technical and vocational education TVET agencies. This year, the program is targeting 50,000 students to gain entry into tertiary institutions. He also called on agencies and foundations to come forward and help the poor and less fortunate students to pursue their further studies.
Minimum 1 juta daripada Yayasan Petronas juga ya untuk membantu menyumbang kepada pelajar-pelajar yang dapat tawaran tapi daripada golongan yang miskin yang tidak mampu untuk membayar mungkin pendahuluan dan sebagainya. Mungkin sebelum dapat PT-PTN kita akan bantu.
The public has been advised not to be influenced by the various videos on social media showing COVID-19 rapid test kits or RTK giving dubious results. Deputy Health Minister Dr. Nur Azmi Ghazali said instead such incidents should be reported to the authorities or the Health Ministry so that an investigation could be conducted to verify the authenticity of the video as well as the reliability of the test kits used. He said every RTK antigen self-test kit issued must have the approval of the Medical Device Authority, MDA, and it is an offence to sell unapproved kits. The same goes with the sale of fake vaccination certificates, and serious action can be taken because this is a threat to public health. Meanwhile, Dr. Nur Azmi added that he would hold a special meeting with the Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Dato' Idris Ahmad, tomorrow to give a briefing on the COVID-19 National Immunisation Programme for Children, PIC kids. He said through the briefing, it was hoped that the right information will be conveyed to religious groups that have doubts about the use of vaccines, adding that town hall meetings were also being held to promote vaccine acceptance. Meanwhile, the Health Ministry has reiterated that those who test positive for COVID-19 and have completed quarantine need not undergo further COVID-19 testing. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said ultra-sensitive test methods such as RT-PCR will still be able to detect the presence of viral genetic material in the respiratory tract samples up to 2 to 3 months after infection. Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham also said that the COVID-19 antigen rapid test kit RTK-AG, both the self-test and professional types, can detect infection from the 3rd to the 7th day of exposure to those already infected with COVID-19. He said RT-PCR tests can also detect infection as early as the 2nd to 14th day after infection. And as such, the accuracy of both types of tests depends on the duration of infection at the time the sample was taken. He said the use of RTK-AG is recommended to individuals who are symptomatic or are in high-risk group and asymptomatic. Meanwhile, the Health DG said patients who test positive through RTK-AG self-testing will need to report their results through MySejahtera, update their health status via the home assessment tool, and undergo isolation as required by MOH. The Armed Forces Fund Board LTAT has declared a dividend rate of 4.1% for 2021. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, when announcing this, said it was the highest dividend rate declared since 2018. He said this was the result of the commitment and determination shown by the Defence Ministry, the Malaysian Armed Forces ATM, LTAT and all stakeholders. The dividend payouts will be made from today.
Dan tahun ini untuk tahun 2021 dividen adalah sebanyak 4.1%, manakala dari segi pendapatan meningkat sebanyak 5.2%. Daripada 341.1 juta pada 2020 kepada 512.3 juta pada 2021.
Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said the transformation process towards amending the Armed Forces Fund TAT Act that began in 2019 would allow contributors to maintain their savings in LTAT even after retirement while continuing to enjoy dividend payouts. Meanwhile, the Defence Ministry's Housing Blueprint 3.0 will be launched soon. Senior Defence Minister Datuk Seri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein said the ministry will further expand the Keluarga Malaysia Armed Forces Homes program.
Ia perancangan menyeluruh, ia selari dengan aspirasi keluarga Malaysia, iaitu menitik beratkan kesejahteraan hidup setiap keluarga Malaysia yang berbilang bangsa, agama serta budaya. Mudah-mudahan perancangan berkaitan blueprint perumahan 3.0 ini berjalan lancar dan saya bagi pihak semua yang hadir dan warga ATM dan MINDEF, saya harapkan Yang Amat Berhormat PM sekali lagi dapat bersama-sama dengan kita untuk merasmikan blueprint berkenaan, insya-Allah.
On the Segamat Camp Keluarga Malaysia Armed Forces Homes, he said construction began on 24th April 2018 at a cost of 147.7 million ringgit, covering 305 home units of various classes for officers and personnel of the 4th Royal Artillery Regiment, RAD. A total of 485 toilet facilities in houses of worship in Peninsular Malaysia have been upgraded and repaired since April last year, involving an allocation of 10 million ringgit. Environment and Water Minister Datuk Seri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man said the allocation was through the Sewerage Capital Contribution Fund KWSMP, managed by the National Water Services Commission in collaboration with Indah Water Consortium as the executor. He said that until last month, a total of 407 toilets, or 84% of the upgrades and improvements, had been completed, while another 12% is expected to be fully completed in May. On average, it costs around 20,000 to 30,000 ringgit to upgrade a toilet in a house of worship, depending on the size.
Kita jangka pada Mei nanti kita akan siap semua projek dan kita telah pun melantik bukan 485 kontraktor tempatan. Yang alhamdulillah saya puas hati beberapa tempat yang saya tengok gerak kerja mereka ni bukan hanya sangat nak untung saja, tapi mereka juga tu menyumbang ada saham mereka sendiri untuk kelestarian rumah-rumah ibadah.
He was met after officiating the handover ceremony of the project to improve toilet facilities at Madrasah Haji Juno, Kampung Paya Kranji, Kota Baru. Datuk Seri Tuan Ibrahim said, looking at the success of the project, KWSMP through SPAN also planned to allocate another 20 million ringgit for the second phase of the project to be expanded to houses of worship throughout the country. Foreign investors and local retailers were net buyers for week ended 4th March, which saw a total net inflows of 1.31 billion ringgit, while net inflows from foreign investors amounted to 1.08 billion ringgit. MIDF research in its Ikuti strategy report today said international funds have been net buyers on Bursa Malaysia for the 4th consecutive week for 7 out of the first 9 weeks of 2022. According to the investment bank, the net buying by foreign investors was the highest for the year, surpassing the previous high of 955.9 million ringgit for the week ended 18th February. MIDF research said as the market reopened on Monday last week, local retailers and foreign investors bought 35 million ringgit and 490.9 million ringgit net of local equities, respectively, while local institutions kicked off the week as net sellers at negative 525.9 million ringgit. It added that the three sectors that saw the highest net inflow from foreign investors were industrial products and services, financial services and plantation. Last week, Press Metal registered the highest net money inflow of 4.13 million ringgit. Its share price was 6.96% higher for the week, outperforming the local bourse, which had a 0.77% weekly increase. And that concludes today's Updates at Noon. Making the headlines today, 50 locations selected for Keluarga Malaysia Education Tour. Tune in to News at 10 coming up at 10 p.m. on RTM News Channel. I'm Mohana Priya. Thank you for your company.